Hello. So today we'll be learning everything there is to know about punishment. I will teach you the basics and show you what your options are to find new interesting ways to punish your opponent that only Akuma has. I will give you the tools to find that out when you are learning matchups. Alright, so let's get started with the basics. Okay, so for this you are gonna need a basic understanding of frames. I recommend that you get the frame data overlay DLC, but you don't need it if you're comfortable with just using a list you found on the internet, or there's also a mod that gives you the frames, but I recommend the DLC. Alright, some say it should be free, but that's not really the point. I'm gonna go pretty fast right now, just listing all of his punishing options, but I will go in depth into why you would pick one or the other once I have listed them all. So let's get started with his 10 frames. His 10 frame punishers are pretty simple. You start off with 1-2, and then you go for the jab cancels. His jab, much like his down jab, which is also a 10 frame, are canceled by some of his special moves, not all. You cannot do a harder. Wait, why is he blocking? There we go. It's cancelable by the big Tatsu, the small DP, the big DP, and the super, but that's like super hard to do, so yeah, there. With the down jab it's a bit easier, but yeah. You can also use the EX moves, right? I wouldn't recommend using EX DP for that, but you know, you can also use the EX Tatsu, right? You cannot use the hardos or the small Tatsu. Now, you gotta remember, the DPs are cancelable, which is why you would use the DPs. You can use them like this, or you can use the big DP to add another bar. Alright, unless it's gonna kill, I don't really recommend that, but these are your options for 10 frames, and all of that also works from the down jab. So if your opponent is in crouch for some reason, and your jab's gonna whiff, you can try the down jab if you have the range. Just remember, yeah, stuff like that can happen if you're too far, and same with the regular jab. The Tatsus, you got the same problem, just a bit less. The EX Tatsu normally is a bit better than that, but you know, that's beside the point. That is all of your options for 10 frames. Oh, also just single DP and big Tatsu on their own are 10 frame. Forgot about that. These are only for really specific scenarios, but you should know that these are 10 frame and can be used as punishers. Now, for 11 frame, you have the big DP. Right. There are reasons why you would use big DP instead of jab DP, which is your most damaging 10 frame punisher, and is actually your most damaging punisher up till quite a bit actually, without bar. But yeah, what happens is your opponent's going to do strings, and if they stop, usually the strings are going to be minus, I don't know, 11, 12, 13, something, right? So if you do the DP, you'd punish, and if they continue the string, since this has invincible frames, as you can see it says invincible in the frame data overlay, you will not get hit by the last hit of the string. I will show you examples of that in a second. Now, you can also do it from crouch, right? So it's worth noting. Now let's move on to 12 frame. 12 frame, he's got this move, right? I can think of a couple things that you'd punish with this, but generally it sucks and it doesn't really matter. Now we got a down 2. Got down 2 Tatsu. Don't do down 2 DPs. That's not good. But you can do down 2 hardos, which is a launcher. Right, there you go. And of course, you know, you can use more than one bar for that. In crouch, you can also do down 2 because it's a down jab. That is your go-to 12 frame, and really with bar, if you can go for that, that should be your go-to Punisher overall, if you have meter and you can't get a launch otherwise. Alright, more on that later. Okay, so when you do down 2, you can also do down 2 Tatsu to do like down 2 Tatsu DP, or you know, if you got a bar, you can continue the combo. The thing is, you don't want to do that, because if your opponent happens to be in crouch when you do that, you will whiff the Tatsu, like so, and that is not good. Again, 13 frame. It's got down forward 1-2. This is mid, so you don't have problems with the jab. There's no problems of it not connecting. Like if the first hit hits, the second should always hit. So down forward 1-2, good range, good frames, not quite as much damage as that, but sometimes you don't want to go for Oki. Sometimes you want to go for plus frames. Like I said, range, mid, overall solid move. Next we have is 14 frame launcher, which is this back 1 demon flip, and you do demon flip 3. Quick thing to note, it connects from far away, but you're not going to get the tailspin. Alright, so if you're doing this from far away, I have 2 recommendations. Either go for the slide, or go for a no demon flip and you go for the red fireball. Right, you can dash up, get Oki, and it's only 1 less damage than this. So at range, it's okay. You can also do 4-3, which is 29. Again, that's if you want plus frames and not a knockdown. Really depends on feeling. From really far away, that's actually 15 frames, but usually you don't really have to worry about that, because this has kind of the same property. Next, there's 15 frame. That is standing 2. Standing 2 is like down 2. It is cancelable by any special move, right? You can't you can't do Tatsu on jab. You can on this. So Tatsu, DP, but your most damaging thing off of 2, because it hits from quite far, is to go at a distance, you go Tatsu, and a bit closer, you go for the big DP. Now, the difference between that and back 1 is that back 1 is a high. Again, if your opponent's in crouch, you need to think of mid option. It's a special mid, so if they're ducking, you will hit them with this. And 41 is quite chunky, you get decent Oki, it's pretty good. But, like I said, it's cancelable, go for hardos. At range, go for the purple hardo. Up close, go for the red hardo. Except against Fang and Jack. Can't think of anyone else, but these 2, for some reason the red fireball doesn't connect up close sometimes. It's a bit weird. But yeah, red fireball's 1 more damage. It's also safer if it gets blocked. So yeah, next we have 16 frame standing punish. It's down for a 2-1. It's a regular launcher, like anyone else, really. No cancels, no nothing, no nonsense. But the range is a bit finicky, and if you mess up, it is minus 18. So yeah, you need this, but you're not gonna use it as much as you might think. Next we have 17 frames. Forward 2-1 in 17 frames is realistic. That's his wall bounce, so you know, use it near the wall is bad, but sometimes you're gonna have to use it without the wall, just because dashing in gives you good range. I guess not as good as that. You can use forward 3. That is unfortunately all you get off blocking a death fist a lot of the time, not always. And you have down 4, which is, you know, just a sweep. But good range, Oki, that's what you get. You also have this, down forward 3+4, down forward 4, sorry. It comes out in 19 frames. The only thing I can think of punishing with that move and not something else is Asuka's back 3. So it is important to know in some matchups. Next, let's do is while standing / crouching punishment. So for the 10 frame, like I said, it's the same as standing, you just do down jab into whatever. 11 frame, you also got the DP, like I said, but you have while standing 4/4 now. Good damage, you are at -5, but there is some pushback. Usually your opponents won't press too many buttons on it, but I don't recommend that you press too many buttons after that. His 12 frame hasn't changed, it's still down 2. Now we get to his 13 frame. He has 2 options. While standing 1, which is unfortunately a high, but can be cancelled with any special move. That means Hado, which is, you know, the best way to go for launchers. You can FADC, use 2 bars, that's the most versatile option, but you can cancel it with anything. Then we have the mid option, which is while standing 3. It's a counter launcher, so note that if it's a string, you might end up not getting exactly what you wanted. But yeah, you can do same as jab. You can't do the small tatsu and you can't do the hardos. Which means if you want to get a launch from this, you go for the DP or an EX tatsu. But usually what you're gonna do if you block a 13 frame move in crouch, you're gonna want to do the big DP. That is gonna be your go-to no meter punisher. He doesn't have anything for while standing 14, unfortunately, but he has 15 while standing 2, which is cancelable by demon flip. Usually makes it safer if it gets blocked, because you can go for demon flip shenanigans and crush a lot of their punish attempts. You can also cancel it into fireballs if you're a bit scared, but that's no longer the realm of punishment. So yeah, while standing 2, 15. You can also do down 4 from crouch for 17, but that is going to be from blocking something really far away. I'm not sure when you'd use that. You can also do 4-4-2-1 from crouch, because dashing cancels your crouching. Yeah. So that's it for what the options for punishing are. Now, let's get into the specifics of why you would choose a certain option over another. Okay, so first I'm going to start in the open and then I'll show you at the wall. So for your 10 frame, usually your best bet is going to be jab into big DP, right? The reason being, you get more damage than the other options, obviously, right? Again, that is without meter, right? And you get Oki. If your opponent stays on the ground, you can do back 2, which hits grounded, right? And if they happen to tech, it's a safe mid. You have to wait a little bit for it to hit, but yeah, you get Oki. And if they tech, you know, let me set it up. You get the classic Akuma 50-50. Right. Imagine that was while standing 2. But yeah, that is why that's gonna be your go-to 10 frame punish for the open. The only issue, like I showed earlier, is the range. So you know, sometimes you're gonna have to go for 1-2. Yeah, you're gonna have to practice, you know, matchups and ranges and all that to know that kind of stuff. And I'm gonna give you the tools to learn the matchups, not teaching you all the matchups in one video. No one can do that. Then we move on to 13, 12, and all the other frames. The thing is, they all do less damage, apart from back 1, which is a launcher, and actually back 1 at range doesn't even do that much damage. You'll get better Oki and more damage by just doing that. When you don't have a bar, as long as they recover standing, that is going to be your go-to punish up to 14 frames. Right? 14, if you're close, you want to go for the launch. If not, you go for jab into big DP. If it's 15, again, back one's a launcher, but if you can't get the launcher, 2 into big DP is going to be the same Oki as earlier. Right? where you can dash up if they tech, and if they stay on the ground they get hit. That's going to be the same thing, right? You can also do down 4 instead of back 2, but then when they tech, if they block it, it's not safe. But that's another way of doing the 50-50 Oki after it. The problem now is if they duck, what do you do? Like I showed you earlier, down forward 1-2 is a great, decent ranged option that is a mid. Alright, so that is going to be your go-to punish when you think they might not be standing, or when you think you might not have the range. Alright, 1-2 is for 10, but for anything else, it's going to be down for 1-2 when you don't have the range. Alright, so that's for your punish. That's pretty much how you're going to want to punish. It's pretty easy. You saw there were so many options. You really don't have to remember all these options, right? As long as you don't have meter, jab into DP, back 1 if you're close, down forward 1 if they're ducking, and you know, if it's 16 and you got the range, then you get a 16 frame launcher, right? That's pretty easy. Now, if you got meter, things get slightly more complicated. For 10 frame, you're going to want to do this if the wall is relatively close. As you can see, I can do almost the full combo and get like close to 90. If I did jab into DP, for example, right, which used to be the combo, it brings much further to the wall, right? Yeah, much further. So you will reach the wall too quickly, and you will not be able to get the full damage potential. So you always want to be aware of where you are on the stage to pick your combo. I'll rehash a bit of this when I do the combo centered video, but yeah, when you think of which launcher should I use to punish, that's going to be relative to the wall. Tatsu's a lot more compact, DP has more wall travel, and if you do the DP2, that opens the possibility of, well, I'm really bad at this, of using an extra bar. You can either do it like this, or like this. That's actually a lot easier. And again, that is going to depend on where the wall is. I don't recommend you use 2 bars to do that, but it is an option that is available. And if it's going to kill, and if it's the last round, so you're not going to need more bar, you should consider using that. Alright. Next, we have 12 frame with meter. I already showed that you can do this. That is pretty much what you always see from Akumas. It is a great punish. The range is not great, but it is quite good at catching hitboxes. Like when your opponent whiffs a move, very often you can still hit them. Like their arm is still like out, and you can clip that from quite the distance. It's going to be quite hard for me to show you an example of that, but let me give it a go. Okay, I think I got it. There you go. It's pretty good at clipping hitboxes, right? Which means the range, if you play your cards right, is not as relevant. But yeah, that is your 12 frame launcher. It will do more damage than jab into EX Tatsu, but not by much. The difference is the crouching status of the opponent doesn't really matter. And it's also safer, because if this gets blocked, and you are at -18, that is launch. If this gets blocked, you're at +6, right? You don't have to do the back 1, you need to learn how to confirm that. But yeah, it is safer if you mess up, and you get more wall carry, more options, and just 1 extra bit of damage, right? The reason I say it's more like versatile is because you have the option of using another bar, right? In any way you want. So you could wall splat like for free. You could do a jab into a DP if you don't feel comfortable with another full FADC. You can even do this, right? Again, that is if the wall is closer. That is now optimal if the wall is closer, right? So down 2 is really going to be your best punish, and thanks to season 4, your 10 frame is near as useful, and that is all with meter. Now you have 2, and when you get to 15 frames, you have 2. Yeah, that is pretty much a beefed up version of down 2. You don't get the high crushing, but you get much more range. Like enough that you can actually put more than the 14 frame launch if you are far enough, and it's even better than down 2 at clipping hitboxes when your opponent whiffs. Right? I don't need to show you another example, I think you got it. They extend their arm, their leg, you hit them from much further, and what makes it so good hitting them from far away is that if you hit them from far away, the harder it travels across the screen and combos, which is what gives you more than the 15 frames you're supposed to get. Wait. Yeah, there I was at plus 17 when I did it from there, because I was much further away. More time for it to travel, and while the harder it travels, you start recovering, which means you can do more. I don't recommend going for down forward 2-1, right? It is more damage than back 1, but it is very risky, because it is very hard to assess range in that way. Sometimes you'll be sure, but usually it's probably best to stick with back 1. And yeah, that is why your 12 frame and 15 frame are more versatile. If you have bar, it's much better. There's not much to say about the while standing punishers, right? Because they're still down 2, and I pretty much explained. This one's a high and it's better. This one's a mid. Not much more to say, but what I do have to say for when you're crouching is you have the ability to crouch cancel, right? So yeah, when your opponent does a really unsafe low, if you press up to sidestep into the background and immediately do a move, you can do standing moves, which allows you to use your bar in much better ways, right? Instead of just getting the launch, you have the option of using a bar, right? Let me try this. Even 2 bars and get some really good damage. I personally don't recommend doing this if you can get a launch, right? If you can already get the launch, there's not much point, but like I said, if it's your last round, if it's gonna kill, spend the bar, finish the job, right? But usually saving bar is better. Okay, so that was it for the open space punishers. Now, what if you're nearer to the wall? Okay, so here we are at the wall, and like I said, your go-to 10 frame is 1 into big DP. That is not the case when you're under the wall. You do not get a combo from this, right? So you can do 1-2, which gives you a good resplat. If you're off axis, you can even get better than that, but you get the idea. 1-2 will give you a wall splat, 1 big DP won't. 1 small DP can give you a combo, right? But it's still not as good as doing 1-2. So now 1-2 becomes your go-to punisher. But the thing is, the other 2 options to punish will give you a certain travel distance, right? Like from here, if you do 1 big DP, you will get the combo. And right, let's go forward. 1-2 will not, right? And from this distance, you can actually get big Tatsu. So be aware of your surroundings. You have many options of Akuma. And you know, these all work from down jab as well. So you will need to adapt according to the wall. That is why he has so many options and what makes him so good. And I often see even advanced Akuma players be near the wall and try for like a 1-2 and just not get the combo, which saddens me. It's a character all about doing sick combos. You need to optimize. And like even doing your combos, right? It would be better to do this than to do back 1, because you would not have the space to do your combo. So you need to think about all these things. And it's the same with the while standing punishers, because you can go for the Tatsu instead of the DP, right? Because it's really going to depend on where you are. The Tatsu travels a lot more. And also, that's when the wall bounce becomes very useful. Because let's say something is minus 17. Normally, you'd want to launch it with down for a 2-1, right? You do get a good combo, like it's decent. But if you're near the wall and even like quite far, right, you can get like a running one, and there's plenty of options you get from getting the wall bounce. And like I believe I said earlier, when in crouch, that is still an option. So, alright, when it comes to blocking hell sweeps, for example, or snake edges, or whatever kind of big low, instead of going for while standing 2, you can go for the wall bounce and do a better combo. Because while standing 2 does 17 damage, you get an extra hit in the air, whatever. But this is what you're going to want to do near the wall. I'll be honest, I tend to forget that. But that is much better damage, right? You'll have to figure out the exact combos, and you know, until I make my full combo tutorial. You know, there's some really fun stuff you can do, some resplats. But yeah, let's not get into that. So that's it for general punishment. You just need to pay attention to where you are. Now I'm gonna get into some more character specific punishes to give you some examples of which tools you should try out in training mode to know what beats what character and not what traps not to fall into. Okay, so the first character specific tool you're gonna want to try is jumping. I haven't talked about it yet in regards to punishment, because you're gonna have to test it for different strings, right? Let's say Kazuya does 1, 2, 4, 3, right? You cannot jump over that low, right? So you can block it and you can punish it, and you get some pretty good damage. You can even use a bar, you know, for some really good damage. And if he stops, the low is -14, so that is real. Now, when it comes to while standing free, I told you earlier, it is a counter hit launcher. So you do have to be careful, because your launch will not be as good if he's still going for a string. See, that kind of thing happens. And that is a lot less damage than the regular combo, which is why while standing free is the much better tool for punishing 13 frames. But let me get to the jumping, right? You can jump over the mid, right? And that is something you need to try, because if you think he's going to go for the full string, you can simply jump over, right? You will get more damage. You just have to get the proper timing. See, the added damage and carry of the jump in is clearly bringing a lot more. So first thing you're going to want to try is jumping over strings. Okay, that example of Kazuya was not necessarily the best, because you do have a guaranteed punish, which is pretty good. But how about we try about really maximizing damage and avoiding problems? So Lucky Chloe's got this string where she goes down forward 1 into, I believe it's down forward 1, 3. Right? It's only -11, right? So you can launch with regular down jab, but you can't use down 2. You could low parry, I guess. But when you try to punish, you also get the issue that she has an extension to this, another extension, right? She can do this, right? And if you try to punish the second hit, you will eat it. But if you believe she will do the first, she will start the string, as in she does mid into the first low, whatever she does next is irrelevant, because you can just do this and launch her. You don't even need a bar. It's nice to use a bar, it's even better. But yeah, try jumping over strings. Like I showed with Kazuya, even mid sometimes. Just when you're studying matchups, see if in between hits you can jump over. Like, okay, I needed to stay on the ground for a bit. Yeah, so check jumping. That is tip number 1 when studying matchups. Okay, tip number 2 is using your high crushing properties on down 2 to get a launch. So with Marduk, you have this string, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 1 plus 2. And you're like, oh, I don't know if he's going to continue or not. But if you just do down 2, you will punish the hit before it happens. You basically do a counter hit. And if he stops, he is very unsafe. He's actually minus 16. But you don't actually have to guess which one he's going to do. You can just do down 2 and get a guaranteed punish every time. You can use down 2 to crush. And the reason you don't use down 3 is because of the clean hit, right? It could, if he does 1, 2, 3, you won't get the clean hit, right? So that means you don't get the launch. Down 2 though, no problem. Okay, so the next tip is using the invincibility frames on your DP to interrupt strings and not have to take mix-ups. Like, we all know Geese's string, he can either go for a mid or a low if you block the third high, but Akuma can just DP in the middle and not have to take the mid, right? Doesn't have to take the mid, and he doesn't have to take the low either. You can just DP through it, and you know, if you DP and your execution is godlike, I guess you could do this. I am not trying this in any real match ever, but that is an option. Beware. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on the mid. Which brings me to my next tip. Use EXDP instead. Usually I really only recommend this when you're definitely sure you're gonna kill, right? Because that is quite the waste of bar otherwise. I just, you know, get good defense. But EXDP is invincible as long as you have 1 frame to input it. So if you don't want to take mix-ups, you can do this. But please check that the hit you are actually trying to do, if they stop, is unsafe, right? If he doesn't finish, oh, wrong one. Did I actually record it? Yes, I did. This is actually minus 15, which means when I do my EXDP or my DP, if he decides to, he can't bait it basically. He doesn't have a choice. If he goes to that, it's over already. If my reflexes are good, but you know, I recommend just going for the big one. But yeah, that is how you beat it. That is Geese's QCB2. It is a high, so you know you could duck it, but they can do it at different moments where you cannot duck it. Here's another tip. Back 1. I did tell you back 1 at range is not a launcher, but you can actually change that by using some bar. So let's say you block Jack's down 4-2, right? Jack is notoriously good against Akuma, and you know, down 4-2 is one of the big reasons why he is. But you can actually get a launch off of that by using a fireball instead of the demon flip. This would be your go-to combo, right? But there are many variations. You know, be creative. Do you. But yeah, that is another thing to keep in mind. You can use the big red fireball or the purple one. Either is fine. You will get a combo off of 14 frames, which is much better because at that range, right, you cannot really do anything apart from down forward 1-2. You can't get the launch, right? It's only 14. So that is how you extend and get the max off of that. Okay, here I'm gonna show you what you can do when you block big lows other than crouch cancelling, right? A bit more specific. It doesn't work on every big low in the game, but it's worth trying. I know there's more than just this one that can do it, right? This is minus 37, right? You can actually jump, and that is a punish. That is a real punish, right? Your reflex should be to do while standing too, right? But it shouldn't be, because you can get a lot more damage by jumping. And also, I'm gonna show you this one on Jack, right? He has a very, very specific punish, right? If you walk back, you do a fireball, you can actually connect a focus attack, a level 2 focus attack, and get a full launch, right? The reason you'd want to do this over just a focus attack, right? First of all, it's a high, is that you can actually get the wall bounce after the focus attack. You can do something like this. And I messed it up. Yeah. Needless to say, that is pretty good. And when you connect 2 into harder at range when punishing things, as in when you clip their hitbox, like I was saying earlier, by grabbing that arm from far away or something, it is that works. It works on many characters. It's very range dependent. It's very character dependent, but it's worth trying. It's worth experimenting with in training mode, because you know you want to optimize your damage. That is what punishment is all about. Getting the maximum damage when it's guaranteed. They are nerfing Akuma's damage every season, and for good reason, right? He has very quote-unquote easy access to it, and if you don't take every little bit of damage you can get, then you will feel the nerfs more than I do, I guess. Alright, so that about wraps up the punishment guide. Let me know what you think. Just, you know, that was a lot of little tips here and there, so that when you learn matchups, you just go through every move, every string, and you check all of the available options. There is a lot of things that are easy to miss. It is not just, can I step it? Can I interrupt it? With Akuma you also have, can I jump it? Can I crush it with a launcher? Can I just be invincible through it and not care he's doing anything? And that is part of what makes Akuma so good. Okay, here's one I almost forgot. Some moves have different pushback depending on where they hit you. Like, Paul's Death Fist is notorious for pushing you very far, and even your longest range punish will sometimes whiff. So what you want to do is usually go for forward 3 after this, but you should recognize that if he hits you at tip range, right, I'll try to make that happen, you will whiff, right? Downfall is also a pretty good option here, but it suffers from the same issue. Especially with the range buff, that's actually pretty good. You get better Oki than just, you know, well, you get Oki instead of plus frames. But if he hits you up close with this, standing 2 will connect. So again, be very, very wary of the range between you and your opponent. You should be aware of where you are on the stage, and you should be aware of how far you are from your opponent. Even this sometimes hits, right? But I will not ever recommend you punish Death Fist to down forward 2-1. It is so unreliable, right? And now I will show you an extra piece of knowledge. That is that the wall messes it up even more. Yes, the wall can actually mess you up even more. Alright? Like, if they're completely stuck in dashing towards you, it'll sort of work, but like, see, sometimes you'll just slide off the wall. Stuck to your opponent and you'll slide off the wall. So be extremely careful punishing this type of attack. I would recommend most of the time just going for your longest range guaranteed punish, which is forward 3. Even up close, I would say sometimes you're gonna have to. It is better to have forward 3 in mind than to mess up the other options. See? He can easily make you whiff. Sometimes he won't. But the more you experiment with it, the more you won't need to have the guaranteed one in the back of your mind. You'll be able to recognize these situations by training, you know. I can't learn the game for you, but I can give you the tools to learn the game better. Okay, so what if you block a move and your opponent's in back turn? Your opponent cannot block in back turn, so punishing them is more a case of hitting them before they turn around, more than knowing really the frame data a lot of the time. Obviously, this does not happen a lot against pull, but it is something you need to know. The back turn grab is actually your best bet for damage. It does 50 damage, it can be comboed into from the FADC combos. Just make sure you are well in the opponent's back, because if you're slightly off axis, you might get this, which is the side grab, and they can break away from that. Like, yeah, make sure you are in the opponent's back. Otherwise, just launch, you know. Do a tailspin, obviously, not like I just did. And you can combo from that. Even though the frames don't say so, if you punish something that puts them in back turn, you're not going to get focus attack, but yeah. Depending on how they turn around, you can, it's not guaranteed. But yeah, down forward 2-1 will be guaranteed after an FADC. And another nice little thing, with a DP, if I do it right, you can actually get in the front of your opponent. So there's lots to experiment with when you block something and your opponent's in back turn. Beware of back turn parries, of course. But yeah, those are pretty much your options. Also, down 3 won't need the clean hit. That's good to know. Okay, so when it comes to whiff punishment, your best tool is usually going to be standing 2, right? Standing 2 Tatsu, standing 2 harder if you have a bar. But the problem is that is kinda unreliable. So what you can use is just regular pokes with punishers, right? Because forward 3 leaves you at +7, which is amazing. Also, you have down 4. Down 4 is great as a whiff punisher because it has amazing range, crushes highs, and it's invisible, so you can use it as a whiff punisher. But one thing I really want to talk about when it comes to whiff punishing is if you step your opponent somehow, like you play Akuma, you're not going to step that much, right? But if you step and you do back 1, you do not actually get a launch, right? And you do have to remember that. Unless their legs go in the air like this, you do not get the launch. You can use the hardos to fix that, but yeah, when you step, if you can do down 4 2-1, that is much better, right? Because back 1, not great. When that is when you step to the left. If you step to the right, you actually get an easier combo. Unless you're too off axis, then you get the same problem. So yeah, be careful when stepping. That also applies when you use a bar. So yeah, Akuma's steps are already bad, and they're extra bad because your main launcher doesn't work correctly anymore. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and you know, like, share, subscribe, do all that, and I'm out. Goodbye.